We're finally in the top 50. We're finally in the games that are good and worth playing. Let's do it.
Snick and Mike's top 100 games. But does anyone care what they have to say? Let's. I know I don't. Cause they may dab, they might scream, they may say some things that are plain wrong. Dab on it, dab on it. But they are dumb dumb bing bongs. My teacher's better.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike.
I'm Nick.
We are the Brothers Murph, and we are continuing our journey through our top 100 games, our favorite games of all time. These are objectively the best games, subjectively selected by us.
Yep.
These are the ones that we'd prefer to play over any other games on Earth. Let's see, we've done the whole first half, so if you haven't watched that, watch the back half of this and contribute your top 100 along. We love seeing that in the comments, so keep that going. We are also running a Kickstarter campaign to support this very channel that you are watching right now.
Great.
So if you enjoy what we, who knows, we're shooting this well ahead of time.
Yeah.
But if you enjoy what we do and have a couple extra dollars and want to support, we have some stuff that you can buy, or you can simply go to support the Brothers Murph. We have Christmas cards and fun stuff like that. So please go check that out and support if you can. And I think we've done enough jibber jabbering. Let's hop into this with number 50.
50-50. Who out there is subscribed? It's probably not 50-50. It's probably less than 50-50. So if you're on the not subscribed half the 50,
become
get there.
Part of the 50.
Which 50, Mike?
My number 50 is War of the Rings 2nd Edition, or just the only one that
I'm actually surprised it's still this high.
Dude, War of the Ring is great, man.
It's great. I love it. I'll talk about it later.
This is Lord of the Rings in a box.
Yeah.
And it really lives up to that. It's a mostly two-player game. One
Yeah.
side playing the free people. That's going to be your hobbits and your elves and the, factions of men and dwarves. And then you have Sauron and Sauron's army. So you have orcs and Easterlings and a bunch of folks like that. So you are fighting over control of Middle Earth. And if you're the free people, you're trying to muster together 4 points worth of military victories, which is not easy, because basically Sauron has unlimited armies. They are just completely overwhelming, which is true of the book. And if you're the free peoples, you have much less chance of winning battles, but you can also destroy the One Ring, which will get you the victory, of course, because then Sauron is reduced to nothing. Sauron is just trying to get straight military victory over the free people, and again has unlimited armies essentially to do that with, and they start off in a very overwhelming position, because as we jump into Lord of the Rings, it's not looking so great for humans, the Middle Earthians and things. So this does a great job of, kind of as I was talking about in a couple lists back with Star Wars Rebellion.
Yeah.
Gives you the opportunity to play through the story, but then rewrite the history of that story. Because you have, if you're the free people, which I've typically played, you have the Fellowship representing, Boromir and Aragorn and stuff like that. And you can either have them, Aragorn go to Gondor, or you can have Aragorn stay in the Fellowship, and you can have other people break off from the Fellowship and kind of do things that they weren't in the story. So if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, it's really...
You can tell your own story.
It's really fun to do. The cards, there's these multi-use cards that are either going to be some kind of event thing you can play, or something that you reserve for combat purposes. And there's deep cuts from the books. It's highly satisfying on the thematics, the thematic level. If you're a fan of the books and stuff, this gets you just a lot of flavor text and a lot of the vibes of Lord of the Rings. I think it's beautiful. And it's just really fun. I just think it's every time we play it, even though it's rare that we do, it's such a highlight experience. There's never just a casual, boring game of War of the Ring that you kind of walk away from and be like, oh, I just did that the other day. It's like, no, it's an epic moment, and it lives up to that time and time again. Yeah. So that's why it's still here on the list at 50.
Yeah. My number 50 is, in my opinion, probably the best gateway game out there, and this is, or one of the best for sure, and this is Project L.
Nice.
I really like Project L. I think it's such a good gateway game. This game has got no theme. The theme is shapes. And basically, it's because it's a great gateway game, which is a good way to get people into gaming, because it's just kind of Tetris-y. You're basically going to be getting these kind of dual layer cards. They have a little cutout in them. And you're going to be getting these very nice acrylic pieces, very colorful pieces. And your goal is to try and fill in the void area in this card, the kind of cutout area. And once you do that, the card is then finished. It will usually give you some kind of points, but it also might give you more pieces, which now means you have more variety, more stuff to do. You can also turn in pieces for better pieces. And then there's black cards and white cards. I can't remember which one is better, but one of them is harder to do because I have a bigger area in the middle you have to fill in. But that's the game. It's like you're getting these pieces. It's instinctive. You understand. It's intuitive. You understand what you're trying to do. You're like, oh, I'm going to use these shapes to fill in this shape. Okay, cool. And they make a game out of that. And I just think it's really, really great. It's got a great look. The tiles are acrylic tiles, so they have a great feel to them, great click-clackiness.
They slot into the cards, so it's just incredibly, it's immensely satisfying.
Yeah. Everything about it's satisfying, and it's just super simple. You can teach it to anybody. It's something that people understand. Everyone gets Tetris, at least to some degree. And and it's just great. I love it. It's a great gateway game. It's a great relaxed, kind of end-of-the-night casual game. I love it to death. Project L. It's just really, really good.
Man, that's a great pick, man. That's our number 50. Let's hop into 49.
My number 49 is a game called Space Station Phoenix. Shouts out to our good buddy Crook.
Nice.
Space Station Phoenix is a game where you are running a space station in the state of Phoenix. No, it's not true. But in the state, I said state of Phoenix.
Actually in Scottsdale, Arizona, but they call it Phoenix, you know what I mean?
Exactly. So Space Station Phoenix is a game where you're building out a ship. Everyone has a little hub to start with. Everyone's hubs are different. There's a ton of variety in this game.
So much.
Because everyone's hubs are different. There's like 25 in the game. It's a 4-player game. So you're not going to play with anywhere near all of them in one game. And then you're basically building out your space station. It's kind of an action selection game where you have these gems and you can activate different parts of your kind of space station that will allow you to like go back to Earth and get resources like water and food and stuff. You can disassemble different parts of your space station for scrap metal, which you can use to then build different sections of your station to house aliens and people. Basically, what you're trying to do is a very nice space station. There's like 3 different kinds of aliens in the game. Or I guess 4, because there's also like gold aliens.
And there's also humans too,
and humans, yeah. And so you're basically housing all these, like the pink aliens will kind of go in this sector, the blue aliens here, the brown aliens here, and there's like gold aliens can kind of go anywhere. And then humans can kind of be every other. As well as you're kind of making just a big space station for everyone to live in.
Yep.
And then as you're building out these modules will have essentially ongoing powers or income attached to them.
Discounts.
And as you put residents in them, you will then unlock these things. Yeah, discounts, all this different kind of stuff. So as you go, you're just going to get more and more and more different. And it's just really, really good. This is a game we didn't really know anything about. Our buddy Crook gave it to us to play because he had gotten it. He's like, you guys learn this and teach me later. We're like, okay. And we finally, I don't remember what we finally got around to playing it, but we did.
I think you played on Board Game Arena and...
No, I didn't. I played on Board Game Arena afterwards.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't remember what the catalyst for us playing it was, but it's so good. It's got kind of a generic look. It's got a very generic name. It's got a generic theme. It's just kind of like, space station stuff. You're like, okay, but it's really, really good. And I like it a lot. It's my number 49.
Nice. My number 49 is Spirit Island. So this is a game that...
That'll make people home happy.
Yeah, this has been in our life for a while. Like we played it for the first time a long time ago, and it was and still remains quite heavy.
Yes.
Just in terms of strategy, it's actually not that bad, turn structure wise.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when we first played it back in the day, it was so mind melting.
It's a big one.
And difficult seeming. It's a big game. That I kind of bounced off it a little bit.
Yeah.
Then I had a chance with our buddy Shay from our TFM show, who guests on our channel frequently, take me through a few plays of it. This is still a number of years ago. And I got to play it enough where I started to see like, oh, I understand how you can start to use your abilities and stuff because you're a spirit and each spirit has different abilities and things. And I was able to start to put together like, okay, I think I understand how to be like semi-useful in this cooperative game and I can at least not be a detriment if I'm not really an asset to the team. And that was useful. And then I just got curious about it recently within the last year where I was like, you know what? I wonder if it's still, because we've, kind of advanced as gamers, if we've played more and more games, like, is it still going to be that heavy?
Yeah.
And I was able to grok it much more in terms of, like, seeing how everything works and how, the mechanisms of the game go, so that I could actually then apply more of my brain power to the strategy, which is still very difficult. It's very difficult to manage, but it's not hard to understand how things work. And so I've been able to find immense enjoyment in soloing this game, which a lot of people play this game solo.
Yeah.
I play just single-handed. I haven't been able to like wrap my head around 2 spirits at once. I know a lot of people do solo that way. I just one spirit, one map essentially. And it's really fun to be able to explore a certain spirit and try to learn their abilities. Like, what are they good at? And then kind of go to another spirit, try to figure out what they're good at. It's great to do. It's a really cool theme. I just think it's awesome. that you're these, these native spirits on the land. You're saying like, I want everyone to go away.
Yeah.
Like the Dahan live here.
Yeah.
They can stay. They're from here. Everyone else get out.
Yeah, it's great.
Which is fantastic. So yeah, that's my pick. I think it's a wonderful co-op game. Heavy, difficult, solo's great. And that's my pick for number 49, Spirit Island, baby.
Boom.
Number 48 is a Garphill game. I quite like is the Paladins of the West Kingdom.
Ooh, okay.
Baby. So we are obviously huge fans of Garphill Games.
Yes, indeed.
That is
They're
no secret.
probably the publisher that will come up the most on our top. I mean, that's my assumption.
Probably, I'd say like that or like a Board and Dice. Like we're pretty, as you've seen, if you watched any of these videos now, pretty staunch Euro gamers. And Garphill Games makes games that kind of like appeal to
They
our
sure do.
nature. Shem and Sam, who designed Paladins of the West Kingdom, just seem to be very similar in terms of their style. So Paladins of the West Kingdom is a game in the West Kingdom trilogy of games, the second game, the probably crunchiest of that trilogy. It's a game where you are, kind of have your player board and a pool of workers from turn to turn, from round to round, and you're trying to use this pool of workers to activate your different action spaces, take stuff off your board and put it out on the main board, or to different areas, and you kind of want to invest in a few different turn types. There's like 6 kind of like, I'd say like main actions you can take. And you kind of want to focus on a couple of them because oftentimes they have sort of a symbiotic, synergistic relationship where you are going to be, when you take an action like fortifying and stuff, you're going to be using certain attributes as you're going up these tracks. You need to have a certain amount of strength or your influence and stuff to be able to take these things.
Yeah.
And by taking that action, it's going to give you a different attribute.
Yep.
So you're never going to get the thing that you're paying with. So if I'm paying with strength, I might have an action that then gives me influence.
So it's a really fun balance.
And you need to kind of bounce those back and forth to be able to get up these tracks, because if you have those attributes way at the top of the track, you're going to get a bigger hit of points that way. One thing I just enjoy about this is like it's just all about trying to like stretch out your round as far as possible.
Yeah.
How can I make this pool of workers be as efficient as I can? If I take this action over here, if I put out one of my little garrisons on the main board, can I get a bonus spot where I get a couple workers so I can kind of take more actions on my turn? The actions themselves, those main actions, you have to spend 3 workers unless you kind of upgrade them. So it's pretty expensive to do these things. So it has some kind of Orleans vibes if you're into Orleans, where you have to kind of put out a bunch of your workers onto an action space before it then activates. Same thing here. And I just enjoy that. I'm not good at the game at all, but I enjoy trying to like find some synergies and really try to work those and be efficient with my workers and extract as much as I possibly can out of a round. And it's just really fun. There's a lot of fun things to explore and do, and Paladins has been one that we enjoy. If you want that crunchier
it's
game,
one of the bigger ones, for Garphill Games, for sure.
Yeah, it's been solid. So that's number 48, Paladins of the West Kingdom.
My number 48 is a game called Marvel United. I really, really like Marvel United. CMON tends to have these massive Kickstarters with like so many stretch goals and add-ons, and they each cost like $800. And my problem with a lot of those games always is that they're like 2 to 3 hour games each session.
The massive.
Like, we got so much Zombicide back in the day, and it was just like, you could just never play with it all.
Yeah.
So I was always like, I want like a big CMON game with this much extra content, but that's like a 30-minute game. And that's Marvel United. And so it's
you can
great,
actually play with all the stuff.
You can actually play with everything because the game is like 30 minutes long, like if that. But this is a game, it's a cooperative game, although I really enjoy playing it solo, just like two-handed. And it really feels cooperative. It's basically some kind of main villain, it could be like the Green Goblin or Red Skull or something like that. And they're going to have their own deck of cards that they're going to be drawing from, and they're kind of villains that match for that villain will be kind of around the various areas. And then you're moving around with your character, and then basically what you do on your turn, you play like 2 different cards, and you get to do the icons on your card, but you also get to do the icons on the card that came before that card, kind of no matter what it is, as long as it's not a villain card. So the nice thing is you play a card and you play another card, but then whatever the last card you played, the next person's going to get to use that card.
Kind of piggybacking off each other.
A ton of true cooperation. Be like, oh, you need to move. Okay, I'll make sure I play a move card second, and then I'll do my stuff, but that's going to give you one of these symbols. And it's just super, super simple. I mean, like, Marvel United is so gosh darn accessible. It's like such a simple game, especially in terms of like what you're doing. The different villains can have lots of different stuff they do, and they're actually what makes the game really different. All the heroes are like pretty darn similar, to be completely honest. They all have a lot of kind of generic-ish cards, and everyone will have like 3 cards that are like special. They'll do something else. But a lot of times, like each hero, a decent amount of time, like that different card is like 3 of the same card. They're not actually different. So like they're pretty similar, but the villains, the way they work is like very, very different, and they really change up the game. But I just really enjoy it. You know, we got the base game back in the day, and I've kind of been like going back and collecting the stuff from the past.
Most of it by this point,
from the original Marvel one, I haven't gotten anything other than the base game from the X-Men one, because I just wasn't really nearly as interested in it.
Yeah.
But from the original Marvel one, I've gotten most of it at this point. And so, yeah, I just really enjoy it. It's one of those games where I don't mind having a massive amount of it, because I'm like, 1, I really enjoy painting the minis, and 2, I'm just like, I might actually play with all this someday, which I cannot say for most of those massive, massive games. You'll just never play with even half of it.
Way too much stuff.
This I actually can. So I really like Marvel United. It's my number 48. It's really good. Number 47 for me is Empires of the North.
Nice.
You talked about this a couple lists back.
Yep.
I still really like Empires of the North. This is in the kind of Imperial Settlers world. There's a whole bunch of these kinds of games now. There's now Imperial Miners, which is pretty different, actually.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, Empires of the North is a game where you're going to take some kind of faction. There's a whole bunch of them. I think there's like 6 or 8 in the base game, and then there's been like 4 or 5 expansions, each with 2 each. There's like 14 of them now. And you're basically, every faction is going to have its own unique deck and kind of a unique flavor, like something that they're going to be doing. Like this one's really good at like raiding. This one's really, really good at like trading and doing these kinds of things. They all kind of have a thing. And so you're just playing out your cards. These cards will produce resources that allow you to put out more cards. They do a whole bunch of different stuff, again, depending on the faction. And it's just fun. It's like one of those kind of games where there's a lot of these kind of card games where there's like different factions, like say Imperium Horizons or something like that. But like they tend to be a lot heavier. Empires of the North, I feel like, is a really good, like solid mid-weight of this kind of game.
Agreed.
Where it's not like, you know, like too many bones or whether you have these characters and it really takes like time and effort to like really learn that character. These ones, you can kind of get into it quicker. There's obviously some nuance with it, but it's just easier to get into. And I still really, really enjoy Empires of the North a lot. It's definitely dropped down again. Like it was in our top 5 at some point, but I still really enjoy it. And I'm always willing to play it. So that's my number 47, Empires of the North.
Nice. My number 47 is a cooperative deduction game, which we have discovered we really like. Enjoy a lot. This is Paint the Roses.
Yeah.
Paint the Roses, honestly, it could be even higher. It's an immensely enjoyable game. It should be, probably. But hey, the numbers are the numbers, man.
The numbers are the numbers, man.
We don't change those numbers.
It's a snapshot in time.
Yeah, on that day, that's where Paint the Roses lives. This is a cooperative deduction game where you are the gardeners who are creating the Red Queen's, the Queen of Hearts garden in the world of Alice in Wonderland. Mm-hmm. So you are trying to complete this garden, and the queen, who's notoriously moody, I'll say,
she's a little what's the word? Capricious.
There you go. She's yeah, that's very fair actually, and she changes her
mood all over the place,
constantly. And she's basically constantly hunting you down, trying to chop your head off because you're just not doing a good enough job. And you are trying to stay ahead of the queen by doing the things the queen is asking, which is basically she's told everyone at the table a different whim, they're called. Basically a different kind of combination of color roses and or shapes of the bushes, which are like the suits of cards, the clubs and stuff like that, that she wants to see. She wants these, she wants yellow flowers next to pink flowers. Don't mess it up, you dummy. But she told you she wants spades next to diamonds, the bush shapes, and things like that. So we are placing a tile on your turn. You're going to choose 1 of 4 tiles, add it to the garden, and then if it makes matches for you, you'll add these cubes saying that this tile makes a match with 2 of the other tiles that are touching it. And if it makes a match for any other players, they can also contribute their cubes. And then we have to make a guess of one of the whims per turn. You have to make at least 1 guess. You can make more. And if you are correct, that will allow your gardener to move along the edge of the track further, which means you're further away from the queen, because the queen is going to move every single turn. They are going to be moving to run you down. If you ever have a wrong guess, the round immediately ends. The queen moves twice as fast as usual. So they always move, and they move double speed otherwise, and you're just trying to get the garden complete and stay ahead of the queen. It works so well. It's one of these games that's been constantly, and this is kind of great, one that I explain, and you might be in this spot now, where I try to explain it, and people are like, what?
Let's just play. Let's just play.
And then it's like, let's get into it, you'll see. And then there's that moment where, you know, in that first game, they go like, oh, okay, I see how you can do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then we play a second game, and it's just like people go from like, how is this possibly going to work, to utter delight, which was our experience when we first played this game. It's just wonderful. It's such a good production, amazing art. We have the deluxe version, which has wonderful tiles. The minis are cool. You've even painted them up, so they're extra cool. And I like deduction games when we're all working together. So it's not like a hidden traitor and stuff where deduction typically lives. The cooperative nature of it, where we're trying to figure out, like, why did they place that tile there? They could have placed it over here and it would have made 2 matches with purple.
Yeah.
I don't think purple is a factor. Maybe it's, again, red to pink or whatever, you know, the combo might be. And so that's just really fun and it creates interesting table talk.
Yeah.
So that's my 47 is Paint the Roses.
Great game.
Number 46 is a relatively new game to the list. I anticipate it could go higher, especially we're about to try the first expansion for this game. This is Nucleum.
Ooh, yeah.
So Nucleum is the last year's Board and Dice Essen release, and their big release of the year. This is a game where you are developing networks and bringing power to Saxony, Germany. You're bringing nuclear power to different cities and stuff. You're placing out buildings and hoping to energize them as the action and power them up, which allows you to flip tiles and stuff like that. So this game has, comparisons to Brass and things like that, because you're all sort of able to use the various power plants and things that are out there. You can kind of piggyback on other people's networks to different cities and things, but you kind of want to be the person that's contributed the most to powering up the area. The main thing I really enjoy about this game is it's a big old heavy game. I won't mince words and say it's not. And Nick is so much better at it than me, which is fine. Not jealous about that at all. It's this big heavy game, but it has actually pretty smooth, easy turns. There's, I think, 5 or 6 types of actions you can take, and they're depicted on these action tiles. And on a turn, if you're taking a standard turn, you are going to slot in one of those tiles above your board, and you'll take the actions that are showing on that tile. And actions are get more development tiles, which are those action tiles. Or you can get a contract, or you can build a building or a mine. They're all kind of like... This does a great job of, like, the actions themselves are pretty simple, but it adds up to become this really interesting, crunchy, strategic game that breaks down into very simple, quick turns, which is my favorite thing. I don't want to have a turn where I'm spending half the time just trying to remember how a turn structure works. These turns are snappy and quick, and so I can just, again, don't have to allocate the limited brain power I have on that part. I can just focus on the strategery, which is pretty sweet. That's so Nucleum does just cool stuff with, how you build your mines, where your uranium is, how do you get it to a power plant to then get it out to a city, where you have your buildings so you can flip them over. The spatial element, I think, of that is cool. The development tiles that you use to take your actions are actually what make the rails and stuff that you flip over,
which is really cool,
and put out onto the board, which make that network. So it's like you're constantly gaining development tiles, but constantly spending them as well. And which tiles am I holding back so that I have the actions I want to take versus which ones am I getting rid of to make sure I complete my network. There's a million of those kind of like interesting decisions, I feel like, and how and when you energize, how and when you rest to kind of recollect your tiles and gain income and stuff. It's fascinating. We're about to play Nucleum Australia, which gives you a new map and adds shipping lanes, and very excited.
Just more stuff,
yeah, I think this game has a potential to go higher, but as it stands right now, it's 46, and we're just really liking it a lot. So that is Nucleum.
Okay, my number 46 is a very new game to us, and I want to find it somewhere. It's going to be hard to do. This is going to be Fast Slots. I've only played a game. I'm super hot on this game right now.
It's so fun, dude.
Who knows this will end up in the grand scheme of time, but right now I'm super into it, and I want to play it all the time. We don't have it because it's extremely hard to get. Fast Sloths is a game with one of the best themes ever, where everyone's a little sloth.
Yep.
And you want to go collect leaves for you to eat, because of course you do. But you're a sloth. You don't like moving very much. And so what you're going to be doing is you're going to be hitching rides on other animals, and they're going to be essentially carrying you around the map. You're trying to get to these different tree spots, which will have your leaves on them. You're trying to collect, I think, 8 of your 9 leaves before anyone else. The second someone collects their 8th leaf, they win the game. So there's all these different animals. There's like an elephant. There's like a giraffe. There's a dolphin. There's a crocodile. There's all these different animals around. Unicorn. Humans. The worst of all the animals.
Yeah.
There's like ants, orangutans. There's all this different stuff. And basically, they all work differently. And then on your turn, you can get these different cards. The cards will pertain to those animals. And then you can play animal cards of one type. So like I'm going to play a bunch of elephants here. And then you can move those animals closer to your sloth, or you can have them pick you up and then carry you, and then you have to get off. But again, they all work differently. So like the elephant, for instance, once you decide to depart the elephant, they will throw you an extra 3 spaces. There's like the trunk comes back and just tosses
load up
you.
And huck you.
The orangutans will all be in they'll all be like in the jungle areas, because also those animals can only go on certain land types.
Yeah.
But the orangutans can throw you up to 3 spaces. But then if you land close to the orangutan, that orangutan can also throw you in. So they can basically just chuck you around the map. The giraffe can pick you up from 2 spaces away and drop you off from 2 spaces away because they're long neck. They all work differently, and there's like 12 different animals. You only ever play with 6 of them. So you have a lot of variety in terms of that. The map can set up in a whole bunch of different ways, and it's just such a weird game. But it works. It's really, really fun. Yeah. It's pretty darn simple. It's really accessible, but it's just such a weird theme that I find to be so darn charming. But then there's just a lot of like strategy in terms of like how you want to move stuff. You're like, oh, I have this whole plan, but then Mike does something and moves the elephant away from me. I'm like, no, I was about to bring that elephant over to me. So it's just really, really fun, and I am just mega, mega high on it right now because it's so ridiculous. Fast Lost, number 46, I love it to death. Number 45 is kind of an interesting one because there are times where I've had like bad experiences playing this game, but I still just love it. And this is Wonderland's War.
Okay.
You can get unlucky in this
sure.
game, right? And there's been a couple games of this where I'm like, wow, I just pulled like crap.
You've had a couple of really bad luck games. I haven't had a...
destroyed in this game. And I still really enjoy it, and that goes to show me it's still in my top 50. So Wonderland's War is a Alice in Wonderland themed game where everyone's gone a little crazier than usual in Wonderland, and you're all battling over the various areas.
Going to war!
Yeah, you have like the Red Keep and the Tolji Woods and all these different areas, and you're doing that through pulling chips out of a bag. These chips are going to have a certain strength on them, and then you're basically pushing your luck because you can draw these madness chips. If you draw a certain amount of them, you go mad, you know.
Yeah. And every time you pull one, you lose supporters in that area.
Yeah,
so
if you ever run out of supporters, you have no one else to fight, right? And so you're basically trying not to draw these madness chips, but then as the game is basically broken up. Each round is broken into 2 halves. There's the T half where you're going around the big T table and you're picking up these different cards. These cards will allow you to put your supporters out. They will allow you to get various Wonderlandians, like Humpty Dumpty, all this kind of stuff. But one of the main things they'll do is allow you to gain other recruits. So there's like 6 or 7 different types of recruits, like the rooks and, you know, the cards, you know, like the Red Queen's cards and stuff. And there are 4 different abilities for each of those chips. So every game you can also play with different abilities.
Just super cool.
But then you're going to get those chips that are going to go into your bags. These are other recruits you have on top of you having your own recruits. And then the second half of each round is you battling over each one of these spaces. And again, you're pulling out these. You're basically, every one you pull out, if it has strength on it, that's giving you that much strength. You're trying to essentially be the person who at the end of the battle has the most strength. It's just really, really fun. And again, it's push your luck. Sometimes the luck does not go your way.
Yep.
But it's just nice. You're always engaged because in more than a 2-player game, if you're not in the fight, you have no supporters there, you can like wager on who you think is going to win, which is nice. There's also sometimes you have these quest cards that might have you act slightly differently, where you're like, the quest card might be like, end on a certain spot in the Red Keep area. So you're like, okay, I'm actually not even trying to win this one. I'm just trying to get to this point so I can fulfill this quest.
Yeah.
So it's not always just like whoever pulls the luckiest wins. There's like a lot of other stuff you can do. The art's outstanding. The world is outstanding. It's just so fun. And it's still this high, despite the fact there's been a couple times where I've left this game like legit pissed off. Like did not have a fun time.
Had some bad luck.
And it's still this fun, you know, and I still like it this much. So Wonderland's War is my number 45. I think it might even still climb. I just really enjoy it.
Right on. A heck of a production.
Especially the new expansion. Now you can do more stuff with the madness and stuff like that. I'm actually pretty excited about
that.
Yeah,
we haven't tried it, but I'm really excited to try. My number 45 is a chess-like asymmetric abstract game with like production value at the wazoo and a super fun theme. This is Mythic Mischief.
Oh, okay.
What
are you talking about? Yeah,
there are two versions, 2 volumes, which are cross-compatible and stuff. Highly recommend them.
Yes.
Which is why it's on my list, obviously.
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah, this is a chess-like game where you are monster. You're going to be a monster faction. You might be werewolves or vampires and stuff. And you are at a school.
You're in high school, yeah.
And you're sneaking around the library. So you're basically a different faction, which is like they fall into the stereotypes of like high schoolers, like the jocks and the nerds and the theater kids and stuff, which is adorable. Amazing minis, amazing art, such a fun world. I'm like, I want to see a cartoon in this world so bad.
Yeah, right.
And you are. I say it's chess-like because you're moving your pieces around the board based on your action points that you have from your board and stuff, and you can mitigate and upgrade your board to have more action points and stuff. And you're moving around the board and manipulating the environment in different ways because every faction, you have the ability to move, which is the same across all factions. You have the ability to basically move the Tome Keeper because you're trying to get your opponent's pieces in the pathway of the Tome Keeper. There's someone walking around, they're doing security essentially, and they're looking for kids who are in the library after hours. And so you want your opponents to be in the path of the Tome Keeper while you are far away from the Tome Keeper. So everyone has the ability to move the Tome Keeper, but then they also have the ability to move other player pieces and move the bookshelves. There's bookshelves and stuff on the board which block your movement and stuff like that. And every faction has the ability to move those and stuff, but they all do them in different ways. One of them just hits them and pushes them as far away across the things. They're super strong, and other ones can illusion them where all of a sudden the wall's behind them. They do a bunch of different things, and they all have kind of an ultimate ability, which is also unique to their faction. So this is a really fun spatial puzzle kind of game where you're trying to, again, figure out, like, with the action points I have, if I move this wall here, that means the Tome Keeper is now actually going to take this different route down to their next objective spot because it's the shortest possible path. So I'm going to get that, and then their player piece is over there, which scores me a point. You're trying to do all this kind of chess-like spatial, stuff, but in a way more fun world where it's this, high school setting with amazing art. And this is like a game where you could just play one faction over and over and over until you get great at them and then switch to a whole new faction. You have a whole new puzzle, essentially.
You're basically playing a whole different game.
Because they're going to manipulate the environment in vastly different ways. I think it's so cool. The production value is out of this world.
It's so dope.
The minis and stuff are so fun, and the art is great. Every player's pieces are contained in their own little lidded, box and stuff. It's next level. It's so incredible. It's a game that makes me want to play a chess-like abstract game because that theme is so fun that it carries actually through into a game like that. So Mythic Mischief is my 45. Such a good game. My number 44 is a tile placement game from Uwe Rosenberg called Framework.
Yeah.
I figured you made a guess a few lists ago that you thought it was going to be Framework that I was talking about.
I'm not surprised this is this high,
I love Framework so much. So Framework is in the kind of list of games like Nova Luna, Sagani. There's Framework. They're all based on habitats. And this is a game where you are going to be drafting out these tiles that are going to have tasks on them and or frames. They might have both. They might be a mix of one or the other. And the tasks are basically going to say, hey, get this color of frame around this tile, so adjacent to this tile. I need 3 brown frames adjacent to this tile. Now there are tasks and stuff that say I need 6 or 7 frames. This is a 4-sided tile, so it's impossible to have more than 4, right?
Game over, can't do it.
So they have this thing called flow through adjacency, where basically if I have a brown tile that's adjacent to that task, and then other brown frames that are further out, but they create basically an unbroken line, I can trace a line back to that tile and it's considered to be adjacent. So you're trying to build these big groups essentially of similarly colored frames so you can place down tiles that show that task and instantly complete them or complete them as fast as you can. You're trying to get rid of all of your discs first. The thing I like about this over like a Nova Luna is the drafting of the tiles is way simplified. You will simply draw, if you're in a 3-player game, you'll draw out 4 tiles. If I'm the first player, I take the first tile, then the next player takes a tile, the next player takes a tile, and as the first player, I get whatever tile is left over. You pass the bag of tiles, and you rinse and repeat until somebody wins by getting rid of their discs. Yeah. I love how simple that is.
It's just, it's strips out everything else. You don't need anything else. Just have this.
Yeah, it works really well. So I enjoy the kind of engine building nature where it's like, I'll make a huge group of yellow frames so that ideally if I get any tiles that show yellow tasks, I can put them down and instantly complete them. So you're kind of investing in a couple of colors and trying to build groups that you can continually add on to. I really enjoy that. The ability to get like multiple tasks done by putting one tile down is immensely satisfying. So I just really like that, and it's such simple turn structure that you can play this game back to back a couple times in like, 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, really enjoy that. That's my 44's framework.
My number 44, I'm actually surprised it's not higher. I think it probably should be, and this is going to be a word party game called So Clover.
Ooh, baby.
So Clover is one of the greatest games ever made. Obviously, it's in my top 100. This is the game that just always works. It works every single time. This is a game where you have a 4-leaf clover, which is a dry erase board, and you're going to get 4 of these square cards that have 4 clues on them. It could be anything, like baseball, motor, car, vacuum, whatever. It's like they could be anything on there. And basically, you're going to arrange them. You're just going to kind of randomly arrange those 4 cards in the center of your clover. And what's going to happen is at the edge where you have your clover part, there's 4 spots. There's always going to be 2 clues on each of your clovers. And then basically what you have to do is you have to write a clue that pertains to both of those words. So it's kind of like Codenamesy in that way. Where you have to write, so if you have like, baseball and, I don't know.
Vampire.
You
might write bat.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Yeah,
so that kind of is the midpoint between those 2 things.
Yeah, and that one works. A lot of times they super don't work though. So you have to try and think of like what's the best thing you could possibly do, because you have these 4 different clues you have to give for these 4 different pairs of words, 8 words total, and what you got's what you got. And so you have to do the best you can, and then what's going to happen is once everyone's done, because it's cooperative, everyone's going to take their cards out of their clover. They're going to add in a 5th card that's random, and then basically one by one, everyone's going to shuffle up their cards, give them their clover with the clues on it, give them the cards and be like, correctly arrange this. And they have to then put them back together. And it's just so much fun because every single time it's that puzzle where you're just like, sometimes it works really well. You're like, oh, this works super well for both of these. But then you're adding that 5th card in, so sometimes that 5th card has really good clues on it. And you're like, no, that's the one card that's not there. So you have to say super stone-faced. It's just really, really good. It works so well with every group of people. It's so quick, like, oh, we're waiting for dinner to be done. Let's play a quick round of So Clover. Like, it's just so stinking good. It's one of the best party games out there. It's so wonderful. That is my number 44. Love it. Number 43 is a Garphill game. Mike mentioned Paladins of the West Kingdom. I'm going to talk about Viscounts of the West Kingdom. This is my highest ranked of the West Kingdom games. I really like Viscounts. It's kind of solidified. It was always between this and Architects. This one has been solidified as my favorite at this point. I really like Viscounts of the West Kingdom. It's kind of a deck builder in slow motion where you are moving your Viscount around this rondel, but you are putting cards into your little 3-card tableau. And every round you'll put in a new card, and the card in the end will get kicked out. And then based off the symbols that are in there, there's like clergy symbols and like money bag symbols for like merchant stuff, hammers for like building stuff. And you basically get to choose what action you want to do based off of like where your Viscount ends up. So certain players are like, oh, over here I can build something. So I want to make sure I have a bunch of build cards in a row, because you basically get to count all the symbols on all 3 of those cards for this one action. And then you put cards out, but you also can get new cards that will go to your discard pile. But you're only ever shuffling through your discard pile like a couple times a game. So as Michael said, it's kind of like this deck builder, but kind of in slow motion, because you're not playing all your cards in your hand. You're playing one card, and they're kind of slowly going through this whole thing. And it's just really, really good. There's basically like 4 areas of the game that you can work in. You can like put people in the central castle. You can build a bunch of buildings. You can get a bunch of these manuscripts, and you can go like really, really, really heavy into like 1 or 2 of those things. Try to do a mix. It just works well. This game is like buttery smooth. It just works. It's super, super smooth. I would love rondels. We're going around something because that constant like, Also, I think it's the card that you play, the worth of that card, say it's a $3 card, that's how far your Viscount has to move.
Yeah.
So there's also this mix of like, ooh, I want to play this card, but this card will only move me 1, and I really need to get over here. So I'm going to play this other card instead, and that adds another really interesting choice. It's just so dang good. And for the West Kingdom games, at this point, it is my favorite by... not by a huge margin, but by
clearly.
The other 2 aren't in my top 100 if you haven't watched the rest of our list. So,
whoa, spoiler.
well, I mean, I already told us my highest one. So,
yeah.
So that was my number 43.
Nice. My number 43 is I guess you can play cooperatively, but it's a solo game. This is Paperback Adventures.
Oh, wow. That's high. That's awesome.
I like it a lot.
You do.
Man.
I've never played it yet.
It's so good, dude.
I know.
You got to play the app.
I know. I just need to get the app.
This is a solo word game where you're going to be playing out words. If you've played paperback or hardback, they are, card games where you're playing out letters to assemble words, kind of like a Scrabble situation. Paperback Adventures basically takes that concept and puts it into a roguelite like Slay the Spire. It's in fact heavily inspired, openly inspired by Slay the Spire. Where you are basically going to be working through different, henchmen and then to a main villain, and you're kind of doing 3 levels of that. And as you go, you're going to be adding cards, swapping out cards from your deck. So it's kind of a deck builder, and you're going to be upgrading cards potentially, and then going to play out these cards to spell words to do attacks against whoever you're fighting or defend against their attacks and stuff. And similar to like a Slay the Spire, whoever you're facing down is going to be telegraphing what they're going to do on their turn. They're going to be attacking you for 6. It's like, okay, well, do I try to play cards and splay them to my left because then they're going to show one side of the cards in terms of its icons, and then maybe it gives me more defense and maybe some energy to be able to play some of my items? Or do I splay it to the right, which is going to give me a whole bunch of attack, but I'm not going to defend myself, and your health does not automatically regenerate from game to game, from encounter to encounter, I should say. So you need to kind of like manage that, and you're making these cool decisions, and it's through word plays, through playing out, like spelling the best word you can, and in the word you're going to choose one of the cards essentially to activate that ability that's on that card, and then that card gets exhausted. So you only have a certain amount of time on top of all these things. It's really fun. We're huge Slay the Spire fans.
Huge.
And we love the fact that you get these items, these relics and stuff. All of those things are present where you have a character that's different than the other characters. They have different abilities, kind of a different focus. And you have the ability to get MacGuffins, they're called, which are essentially the relics, which will give you maybe every round you get this special thing, or every encounter or what have you. You can buy more relics and items to use using your energy. There's just a lot of fun stuff. And the production, the physical production is fantastic.
Really good,
There's just like, I think they're game trays or whatever, these plastic trays for where you slot in everything and you track the health and stuff like that of what you're doing. There's a great app for Paperback Adventures, which works fantastically. Highly recommend it. And I like word games and stuff and spelling stuff. So it's really fun to basically take that and pair it with a video game that I love a lot. It works really, really well. So if you like word games and stuff and like Slay the Spire, this is literally those 2 things married perfectly in my books. That's 43 Paperback Adventures.
All right.
Number 42 was just mentioned by Nick on this very list. This is Wonderland's War.
Ooh,
so
close to a crossover.
Yeah, close to true crossover. I echo everything Nick said. This first and foremost, the production of this game. We have the deluxe one, to be fair.
Maybe the best.
But even the base game is incredibly good. It's just so high quality. It absolutely lives and dies by its theme, its art, its style. That is what you're playing this game for. You want to be big and splashy, and it is a big old game, and it is very splashy, and it's fun. There are highs and lows with the pushing your luck element. Like, you can have a game where you just have absolute dirt luck, and it'll be hard to win if you have really bad luck. There is mitigation factors, because I could put more supporters in an area to try to compensate for the fact that maybe I'm going to be losing some of them via this bad luck, but, luck will do what luck will do. This one is just so fun. The theme is cool and interesting. You have asymmetric players. One player is the Cheshire Cat, and you have a cool thing you can do. And I'm Alice, and I have this cool thing I can do. The Wonderlandians and the abilities they give you are super cool. We have the minis version, so they're all these really fantastic miniatures.
Chef's kiss,
It's just got style, for sure. and fun gameplay to boot. I really do want to try that expansion. So Wonderland's War, again, everything Nick just said, apply it to what I said, and that is my 42. What you got?
My number 42 is a Vladimir Suki game called Woodcraft.
Nice.
Really love Woodcraft.
Yeah.
This is a great game where you are woodworkers and you are making stuff out of wood, like a chair or a rocking horse or whatever. And you are getting wood, and the wood is in form of dice. And one of the coolest things, it's such a thematic thing, is when you have tools like saws and glue and things like that. And when you get a die, you can choose to cut the die. And so if you have a 6, you could cut it and make it a 4 and a 2, and you would actually get a 4 and a 2 die. And it's such a cool thematic way to do dice mitigation, because when you're making these orders, like this one's for a rocking chair or whatever, it's going to require a 5 yellow die, two level 3 green dies, and then a level 5 brown die. And you need those exact amounts. You cannot overpay.
Yep.
So you have to like chop up your dice in the way that makes it work for these things, but then also leaves you dice to hopefully do other stuff with them. It's got this great action selection system that Vladimir Suki does, where you kind of have this big wheel of stuff. In this case, it's a great saw, of course, but kind of a wheel that you're getting actions on. It's something he tends to do kind of often, especially recently.
Yeah.
It's just so much fun. It's like weird and thematic, the way things work. You're like, oh yeah, that is how you would do stuff. And you can like get glue, get these scrap pieces and like glue scrap pieces to them, and that increases the pip value of the die because you're adding wood to it. There's just all these weird little like thematic ways that you're able to manipulate your dice that I just absolutely love. But then on top of that, it's just a tough Vladimir Suki game where, per usual, you have like 14 turns in the game, and you get halfway through the game and you're like, how the hell am I going to do anything in this game? I haven't done anything yet, and it's just absolutely brutal, and I really, really enjoy it a lot. I think this one's going to continue to keep climbing. It's just so much fun, and I just think it's an absolute banger. Last one. I might as well just keep talking about Vladimir Suki and games that are painful. This is Praga Kaput Regni.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so they landed right in the same area.
Right in the same area. 42, 41. 41 is Praga Kaput Regni, another Vladimir Suki game where you're given like 14 turns and you're like, how the hell am I going to do this in this amount of time? This one, you are building up the city of Prague, and you are building up the Hunger Wall, you're building up a cathedral, you're building the big old King Charles Bridge, is that his name or something like that? Something like that, a bridge, but from the king, the Burger King. Yeah. And yeah, again, and same thing, you are getting actions off of this action, it's called an action crane. But there's basically these tiles that will have actions on them, and you're taking them off of there. Whole bunch of different areas you can go into. You can go like super heavy into like building out like your little city. You can go super heavy into like the cathedral wall. But this has a lot of games, kind of like talking about Paladins earlier. There's kind of like a lot of like flip-flopping you have to do, because if you're doing this one specific action a lot, you're getting these tokens. But these tokens don't help you for scoring for this. They help you with scoring for this other thing. Yeah. So you have to kind of like do a mix of things to balance out your scoring at the end of the game. It's just really, really good. I love Praga Kaput Regni. Vladimir Suki's become one of my favorite designers pretty quickly here. And I really, really like his stuff. And Praga Kaput Regni is an absolute banger. And it'll probably stay in my top 50 for like a very long time, is my guess.
There you go. Yep. That's 41 for you?
Yep.
Nice. My number 41 is Boon Lake. Ooh. So this is an Alexander Pfister game where you are coming into this new area of land, and you are kind of developing it. You are, discovering tiles, the land tiles first.
Yep.
Then you can build up, your houses on them, kind of turn them into settlements as you develop your group of people, essentially. Yeah. And you are kind of purchasing and gaining cards throughout the game and playing them out into your tableau. Some of them will give you instant benefits. A lot of them will give you kind of discounts and ongoing bonuses and stuff you get if you do certain action types, or if you land on a certain spot on the river, all sorts of things. And then there's many cards that will also provide an end game scoring condition for, however many cows you placed out in your game, or whatever it might be. This game for us is one that is like not perfect, but Nick and I really enjoy, especially at 2-player. I think it's such a fun game because the tableau of cards that you build out in front of you as you take these actions, there's multiples of cards in terms of the abilities. So there might be something where it's like every time you play a cow out, you get $2 or something like that. And you could play down multiple cards that give you that benefit, and it would stack the ability.
Yeah.
So now I play it down a cow, maybe get like 6 money or something, which could be quite valuable. So I love the idea of like investing in a certain benefit, you know, discounts on your little technology tiles or whatever it might be, to kind of just focus on and build up this little engine for getting your stuff out onto the board. Because you ultimately want to remove as many pieces from your player board as possible, because when you go to do income, that's going to give you more points, more money, draw more cards to be able to play out and stuff like that. So it's really a game that for us is really satisfying. I like that you have this kind of blank board to start. You go out and discover things, and you put out these little land tiles, which might give you a little benefit or a boon or something like that. And then the idea of putting out, you know, your little ranchers, turn them into a house, turn the house into a settlement, you know, build your groups and stuff to kind of generate more and more points at income and go for these special goals and stuff each round. It's just really fun. It does a lot of fun Euro game stuff that we really enjoy.
I like it,
you know, it's just one that is really fun, and like, sure, it has some flaws and stuff. If you're playing like a 3 or 4 player game, which we would never do, it's going to be way long. Because every turn, everyone gets to basically follow the action you select. If you select an action, everyone gets to do a follow action for the most part, and which is great because I like that you're engaged with the game a lot, but it does mean the game is going to be long. Nick and I don't really care, and we play it mostly 2 players, so it mitigates that to a degree. And the things that you do in the game are really fun. We got the expansion recently, which we haven't tried yet, but I've heard a lot of good stuff about that in terms of like fixing maybe some of those things that are a little less perfect in the base game. So I can't wait to try that, but it's just one that like every time I play it, I have such a good time.
Yeah, same.
And I love developing your kind of land and stuff like that. So that is Boon Lake, my number 41. And that is our list.
That's another 10 down, baby. It's another 10 down. We are fully in the top half now. Thank you so much again. If you were following along with us, make sure we write down your top 100 along with us. I'm sure you see people down there doing that. It's really, really cool to see people do that. I really appreciate it. Again, check out our Kickstarter if you haven't already. We love you all to death. I think that's it, huh?
That's it, everybody. We'll catch you all in the next section of the top 100. Get those picks in the comments below.
Thank you so much for watching that next installment of our top 100. We are in the top 50. We made it, folks. It's all downhill from here. No more trash on this list. Want to give a big shout out to our channel sponsors, Restoration Games, Garphill Games, and Board Game Geek. You have yourself a wonderful rest of your day.